I want water.
You want water?
Yeah, water is just like, we need to give more appreciation and love to water, like, damn.
Speak for yourself, B. I appreciate
like
water just fine.
Water
Right?
is what?
I'm not a wet sis like you.
Water isn't wet. We all know it.
Yeah, it is.
Is water wet?
Yes,
No.
it is.
Water isn't wet.
Water wet,
You
no.
put your finger into water, then your finger's wet, but water isn't wet.
Yes, water is wet. Why wouldn't it be wet?
Water makes things wet.
Alex,
Yes, it makes things wet because it is wet.
Alex,
No, because
How do you be something and then
I'm sorry.
how do you make something wet that you're
No,
not
should
yourself?
never said
listen.
anything.
Listen, if you have a thing, and then it's wet, the property of it making it wet is that
Is that it has water on it, so it's wet.
Water on it, it doesn't mean that the water
That's
is wet.
because
It
the
means that
water is wet.
Water is water.
Going behind
Water on
Yeah,
things
water
makes
is
things
wet.
Water isn't wet. We all know it.
Water isn't wet. Water
You
is
guys
water.
think you know it, but you're wrong.
No, we can't see if water is wet because when
Well, just because you're blind doesn't mean I am.
it's not fucking
Actually,
wet.
all liquids have a
I can't
surface
see
tension.
my screen because I'm crying too much. Help.
All liquids have a surface tension, so all liquids should be wet.
Big brain right there.
But
Go fucking Google it. It's wet because it's liquid. Liquid is wet. That's how it works.
But something being
water
wet is
wet?
the thing having liquid on it. The liquid being
Yeah, and it's made of liquid. Every little tiny liquid
Water
in
itself
a liquid is surrounded by liquid, making it wet.
No, water isn't wet. It's
No.
what makes.
How
it's
do
like
you?
a-
Yes, it's what makes it wet. That doesn't make it
How do
not
you
wet.
make something that? How do you make something that makes things wet? Like that? No.
What do you mean? That's sort of what's
Wait, how do
that
you
question?
make something that makes things wet? Wet? No, it doesn't work.
You
It's like
don't
how
make
do
it wet. It is wet.
It's
How is it
having
not
something
wet
that
just
makes-
because it makes things
No.
wet?
I started something too precious for this world.
I mean, yeah, I can go and fucking take a screenshot of whatever little thing that I want, right? But it's semantics. It's about definition.
Nuh-uh.
But
That's literally what it is. Fuck off, mate. It's literally
the
semantics.
state of something being wet is
It literally
something
is,
that
which
was
is the worst thing
previously
about it.
dry. No, something that was previously dry now has water on.
Yeah, but we're not talking about something that isn't water. We're talking water. Is water wet? Well, if it's not wet, then what is it? Is it
Water,
dry?
water.
It's not water.
Water is a liquid. But it's
Yeah,
not
water is water,
necessarily
but is
wet.
it dry or is it wet or what is it
Things
then?
Wet.
It's
It
not-
makes things wet. But
Okay,
it
okay,
isn't wet
yeah,
to
yeah.
begin with.
Again, you're going back in fucking circles. Is it wet or is it dry? Or
It's
what?
not. It's liquid.
Okay, and is liquid wet or is it dry or what is it then?
Oh, my brain
liquid is
hurts from
liquid.
this.
You think your brain hurts? I'm the one that started this. I feel like I'm gonna get kicked real soon because I started this. Deserve.
So if anything, I'm gonna get kicked because apparently I don't agree with Alex.
Why would I kick any of you just because you're wrong?
Wow, big ball statement right there.
Okay, democracy as all the good countries do. If we vote, we all know that water isn't
Yeah,
wet.
but that's not how it
Water
works.
is wet.
You
Water
can't
is
just
wet.
go in a group and say, oh, racism. Well, racism can't be done towards white people. And because we're enough people here who think that, that's the definition now. Nah, that ain't fucking language, motherfucker.
Wait.
You gotta convince society, you gotta convince every English-speaking motherfucker in the world that your definition is the new definition. Otherwise, it isn't the new definition, is
But
it?
Alex, okay, listen. I don't know why I keep thinking about this, but like,
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
me, it doesn't make sense that liquid is wet because to me, like, something being liquid is the same as having like a basic element. It just is. You don't.
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
ask how much-
it is liquid, but wet
have
and
to
dry
have
is a
the same
property
property, it
of
just
it's a
is.
state. And
Oh,
if it isn't
sorry
wet,
about Emperor here, Hito.
if it isn't wet, then what is it?
I'm still
It's
alive.
not.
It's just liquid. It doesn't have
That's
to
not.
be wet.
That's not. No, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't apply to the situation.
What have you done, Sip? What have you done, man?
I've just.
Yeah.
I'm destroyer of
I just
worlds
saved
right
you,
now.
so-
Become
We've
dead.
had this discussion before,
Who are
and we
you,
got
Dad?
stuck in the same goddamn place.
I remember googling it, and I went and I looked up on Quora, and the Quora had some dude on there had a really good explanation for why it is wet. I don't remember
Okay,
it.
fine, Show me the fucking explanation.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it once we're done with the
I'm
game
open to
here.
changing my mind here, but I just like it doesn't make sense to me because to me, liquid is just such a basic state of being that it goes like it doesn't apply to
It transcends.
the dry.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like,
That's
it's
like
a
a subdivision of something being like solid.
It's a state. It's a
alright.
state of something, right? That's wetness, or liquid. Sorry, wetness is also it's an attribute, right? So
It's an attribute. Yes.
yeah. So if it isn't that attribute, then what attribute is it? How
I
does
just
it
feel
not
like
have that attribute?
But I feel like something being in a state of liquid and dry just applies to solids in a way, and so.
Oh,
liquid-
okay. So it's because it's liquid. That okay. So you don't
If
care
it was
because
a
it's
solid,
liquid.
if it was a solid, then I would try to apply wet or dry to it as like an attribute. But since
Why?
it's like just a liquid, I don't know. Since
doesn't
it's a
make
liquid,
sense.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Why does it being solid? Why is solidness? Okay, let me ask you this then.
Can be
Air.
wet or dry, but liquids
Right.
are just liquids. It's just like it's beyond. I don't know.
What's the state of air? Like what is it? That's a what do you
It's
call it?
dry.
It's,
No, 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 no.
It's gas.
It's a gas.
It's-
Okay, so
it's a gas.
gases can't be wet or dry either.
No, they can. They can, can't they?
Can they?
Have you ever gone into humid air? That's-
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
That's,
fair, but that's just water particles in the air.
yeah, but they're not liquid. If they were liquid, they'd be at the ground. They'd be falling down. That's rain. No, it's a gas, right? So is that not wet either?
I mean, it's literally just going up because heat. So
Okay.
Oh, hello, friend. Oh shoot, I'm dead. The story of wetness. Water is wet. Oh, okay. I have an idea.
water isn't wet by itself, but it makes other
Let the
materials
man
wet when it sticks to the
goddamn.
surface of them.
No, she has better ideas than me.
Me?
Yes, you probably do. And
So
I
listen. Water, I'm looking at it. Water isn't wet by itself, but makes other materials wet when it sticks to the surface of them. So something sticking to the surface of something else makes it wet.
Yeah, but water is sticking to the surface of other water. More water.
Water does not adhere to itself.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
That's called cohesion, not adhesion.
But it does have adhesive properties.
Yes, it does. That's why you have little droplets of.
Yeah, and so every
which
bit
is
of
why it
water
literally
sticks to
sticks to
another bit of
itself.
water,
It
making it
sticks-
wet.
It sticks to itself as well as it sticks to other things. That is why it's cohesive, but also adhesive.
So it's
yeah.
wet because it sticks to itself
No,
equally
no,
as
no.
much as it sticks to your solids,
Okay.
which is what
water,
makes it wet.
Okay, no, we got two different the fucking arguments here. Water is wet because water is surrounded by other water molecules, right? The molecules are touching, so the water would then be wet. The water molecules are getting each other wet. If you are underwater, you are wet. The water is touching you. Your skin has been saturated with water. You have water touching you. You can't say that you aren't underwater when you literally have water touching you. Wet is used to describe something, not that it does what it does to something. Water is also can't make other things wet if it's not wet itself. That's like saying fire can't burn things because it's not burning in burning in of itself. Fire is an energy, not a
Sorry, Marcus.
thing. Being hypothetical. For all of you saying that water isn't wet because you have to be able to
Oh,
remove
yeah,
the
what?
water from the surface or whatever, you can take
Oh, there's a
water away
flame
from
right there.
water.
There's a flamer.
You can remove water molecules from other
Then
molecules.
finally, oh my fuck.
That hurt my brain.
Interesting. Okay, wait, no, we got the other side. Now we got the other side. Wet is simply the state of having residual liquid of a non-liquid object being. Think of it as A, dry, B, wet.
We're still talking about this.
Of a non-liquid object. They say that it's about a non-liquid object. They said it.
We could have an interesting talk.
Yes. Just because you're underwater doesn't make you wet. It just means that you are underwater. The moment a person who is in a normal state of being dry, because it's obviously the normal condition of a human being, comes out of the water but is still has water droplets on them, that means they aren't dry, but they
Okay,
are
let's.
wet.
I have
Can
a
we
question.
can we do one thing real quick?
Can we have a timeout?
Can we all just go to Google and say
That's dumb.
and write wet definition? Okay. Tell me, what does it say? Because for me, it says covered or saturated with water or another liquid. Water
It
is
just
by
means that has
definition.
water.
Let me finish, please. Water is saturated with water. It is water. It is literally 100% water, making it saturated with water,
I think
making it wet.
is water.
What? Okay.
Covered
water is a-
with water of another.
Yeah, and
another.
saturated. A drop of water is saturated with water because it contains as much water or moisture as can be absorbed.
Wait, we got a few quotes here. Water isn't
Okay.
wet. Wetness is the description of our experience of water. This is what I was.
That's just false, though. We just established the definition of wet. No. You can go on Google. You can go on a forum and say, but the dictionary definition of wet is to be covered or saturated with water or another liquid. Water
Yes,
is saturated with water, making water wet.
Yes, we
Water
made up
cannot
a
be saturated
definition to
with
understand
itself.
what we are experiencing.
Nothing can be
water.
saturated with itself. That'd be like
That is-
trying to make
How can it
a
not?
stone
What
more-
part of saturated
Okay,
removes
No,
that
but something is-
possibility?
If you
a
have a
stone cannot be saturated with stone. You can't do that. You can't.
No,
saturate
that is
water
true
with
because
wood.
saturated
Can be
applies to
saturated
liquids, not solids.
But water droplets can be saturated together because they are like when steam.
No,
falls.
they're
You
not
have
saturated
this
together.
space.
They're
You have this
just
space,
adhering.
right? In wherever location, it's saturated with water, which means it has as much water in that space as it can have under the circumstances of that location in space or whatever.
No.
That makes it
No.
saturated with water. The definition
No,
of water
it's
is literally holding as much water or moisture as can be absorbed, thoroughly soaked.
I'm gonna leave this.
Water is literally just H2O. I would not put any other definition than that.
No, well, we're talking like the reason why
It's
you
a
used water
competition.
is water wet is because it's an analogy for liquid. That's the real that's what it comes down to. It's not really that it's water; it's that it's liquid because the definition of wetness in itself has fuck all to do with water. It is a question of liquid.
So are liquids wet? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, and they are because
But-
liquids are
wait.
saturated with liquids, whatever liquid
Let
it
me
is.
read the fucking quote, Alex. So you
Yeah.
can what I'm trying to say. Water isn't wet. Wetness is a description of our experience of water. What happens to us when we come into contact with water
Hito behind you.
in such a way that impugns our state of being, whatever. Our possessions get wet. A oh my god, sense of experience of water is that it is cold or warm, while visual experience tells us that it's green or blue or muddy or fast flowing. Learned by experience, but that a sensation of wetness is associated with water.
Water.
Is that it? Because
Yeah, that's
every
the quote, but then we got a few
Okay,
other quotes.
but-
Any fluid could be said to be wet if wetness is a result of the sensation caused by the movement of a fluid over the skin. Have you ever noticed that you can't feel wetness if you hold your hand perfectly still while it's submerged, or that a drop of water or the skin doesn't feel wet? That's another quote, but that was just weird. I'm just
Yeah,
reading
but-
from a page.
Yeah, but like again, my argument will still be the same there. That the definition they are using in those quotes for wetness is not the definition for wetness. They are taking the word
depends on
wetness
fucking
and they
where
are
you look for
co-opting it
wetness.
to mean something else.
There's one upstairs.
Alex, stop with the bomber, please.
Never. Upstairs down.
But
No,
it's
it comes
paper
down to this:
two-dimensional.
wet, covered or saturated with water or another liquid. Yeah. So it's got fuck all to do with sensation. It has fuck all to do with looks. Wetness has nothing to do with with the sensation, with the feeling, with how we perceive it. That's the definition right there. Covered or saturated with water
Let's read-
or another liquid.
Let's see what this is. Alright, we got two quotes here, but I'm gonna read them when I die, and they're like connected because like one guy says something and then like another guy is like, ah, this guy was bullshitting, and then yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. I died. None of the answers given to this question so far quite gets to the chemical explanation for water's wetness. Wetness is here synonymous with clinginess, where water gets wet because it clings. Water, of course, is molecularly H2O, and this compound of hydrogen and oxygen are electrically neutral. However, there are also in water many free charged hydroxyls, OH, negatively charged, and hydrogen ions, H+, positively charged. These are charged particles retain the ability to attract other charged particles with the opposite charge.
Guys, would you want to go to another voice channel?
No, this is minus 2. In this way, they stick or cling involving other neutral H2O.
I'm going to another voice channel.
Whatever. If water was made up by entirely neutral particles, it would not cling or wet because the component elements would prefer to stick to each other rather than to make bonds with other substances. And that's what Ian Flintoff said in London. And then this other guy was like, Ian Flintoff has surely misrepresented the chemistry behind water's properties. Hydroxyl ions and hydrogen ions in water, far from being many, are very few. Blah blah blah. Water molecules are indeed electrically neutral, but are highly polar molecules. Yes, this is true. That is that they have positive end and a negative end, though neither end carries the full unit of charge. Oh yeah. It is this polarity which causes molecules to stick to another, and given the chancy as molecules,
Marcus.
liquids can be wet, but even those which contain molecules which are entirely non-polar, but only in relation to another substance, because the wetness is to do with the surface tension, and that implies an interference between two substances. Therefore, for this reason, water is rather poor at wetting things. Try washing your hands without soap. The molecules of water prefer to stick to one another than to molecules of other substances. But this effect is easily overcome by introducing another substance which interferes with the interaction between the water molecules. This allows the water molecules to interact with molecules in the other surface instead. So, essentially, chemistry, blah blah blah. Water is wet because wet is it interacting with something else and having a surface tension. And for it to have a surface tension, it needs to be interacting with another substance of any kind. A glass.
But that's not wet. That's not what wet.
That's
means.
what it said.
Yeah, that's what he says, but that's not the definition of wet. That's my whole point. Is you can. I mean, look, you can say whatever you want and make up your own definition for the words however much you want, but at the end of the day, words have definitions. You look up those definitions and you see if they apply. I mean, this is semantics, but if the definition of wet is covered or saturated with water or another liquid, and if water is saturated with itself because that's what it means to be something, it's saturated with a certain amount, whatever, well then it is wet.
Wait.
So for me, the argument comes down to.
Your point. I don't know.
So for me, the argument comes down to, well, is water saturated with water? Because that's the question, not whether or not wetness has to do with sensation or reactions or blah blah blah. Because that's not the definition of wet. As soon as you have a drop of liquid, whatever that liquid is, on top of your hand is wet. No matter if you can feel it or not. Has anybody changed their mind though from their original stance?
I accept anything that everyone says.
I regret speaking as I always do. That's all I can say.
Nah, don't, mate. It's fun.
This was intense. Like, I
But
don't know
now
if it's
the
real
real
anymore.
argument is paper 2D or 3D.
Oh, for fuck's sake, why?
3D, obviously.
It's 3D.
It is.
Yeah. It's like
But we had this conversation in middle school, and it took forever to convince people that it wasn't 2D. And you're like, do you see the edge on this? It's
What are you doing?
Hello.
hello.
We just established that water is wet.
No.
Water is not wet. Water is not wet.
Shut the fuck up, Seb!
Man, water is wet. Water is covered in
Oh
some...
no!
No!
Yes, thank you! Thank you! Find someone who understands language!
Define wet. Define wet.
It's wet because it's saturated with liquid.
Yes,
Because it is
exactly.
liquid.
Wet is being covered with liquid. Water is covered with liquid because it is liquid.
Yes.
Well, it's
It
covered
cannot-
or saturated, and it's a saturated,
Yes.
that's the important part.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, we confirmed. Okay.
I mean, the only possible thing is that a single atom of water is not wet.
Yeah,
No.
but that's still not true though, because it's still saturated with water. That
No,
single
it's
atom
literally
is still...
just, no, Alex, you fucking cannot say that a singular water molecule is wet because it's literally just a singular unit by itself. It's not covered in anything else.
No, that's what I'm saying, it's
just-
saturated. That
No,
one
it's
molecule is saturated with, it contains the maximum possible amount of liquid because it is saturated.
I'm trying to find.
I guess so.